Good day. What is non-duality? In simple terms, it's exactly what it says is that we are all one. We are made up of the same one energy. It's a spiritual idea that it transcends our concept and our perception of this dualistic world. If you people call this reality, you know, there's a very, let's say, materialistic belief that this is the only reality, right? So there's when you fall, it's way easier to like psychologically believe that idea because it's easier to just live in this reality. However, for people that have spent a lot of times in other places than this dimension here knows there's a reality beyond this, right? And that reality you can get to through meditation, and some people can get through to it playing music or doing art or dancing. There's all sorts of different ways to transcend to a feeling of oneness. You I do believe that you can. Some people that can work very, very hard can reach the true state of non-dualistic psychology. However, you almost would have to live like a monk, I believe, to get there, and without help. And what I mean by help is, there's like plant medicines. I believe that when people see that other reality or experience, have a mystical experience that shows them the energies of oneness, then it's seeing is believing, right? And that's why they've had such amazing responses with people that are on the death's door, like in the John Hopkins University studies on psilocybin, where people come out. 85% of people were having mystical experiences and coming out not fearing death after, right? And that's like an understanding of that this isn't the only realm, right? And and my experience with ayahuasca is that I saw all the energies that connected us. It was all around me, and I could feel this oneness to everything. And I saw it shoot to the sky, and it came in my mouth, and I could feel it all through my body, and I could feel the oneness, and it was so real, and that was my feeling is believing. And the experience that really set me off to a psychological, like almost a flippant psychology, where I actually felt in this realm a oneness. And I came out of my experience. This is on 5-MeO DMT, and I looked at my dog and I was like, "You're Layla." And this Layla is a dog that died ages ago, and she's an amazing dog, just so special. I looked at my dog Gandhi and I said, "You're Layla. You're Sadie." And I started naming all my pets, and I'm like, "You're me." And it was just this is about the third experience. And other times I'd come out writing things about oneness and like how it worked, and like it was just quite esoteric and hard to understand. But this experience kind of it was, I felt it for quite a while. It started to fade as I ran into other people, and I was like, "Oh, we're one." Like I wasn't like saying that to them, but I like was so living it that I started to run into energies that showed me, no, we're still in a dualistic world, right? And I have to protect myself. I can't just go around being one with everyone, right? So the interesting thing is that the ayahuasca experience, it awakened like a feminine spirit, like a super loving, um, feminine spirit that, that I think was being hidden by some resentments and fears that I had in my life that I got past. And so how do we get to non-duality in like our understanding that of living in this world with other people without bringing in resentments and other feelings from the fact that people are taking care of themselves. There is way more competition over cooperation, and that creates a resentment. It's hard to hang on to a non-dualistic spirit, and so what you want to do is be as above so below. And it's like, well, how do we unify up above? Well, I think that the only way to unify from above, which is here, let's say in this realm, is we have to go through the birthing pains of burning off the ideologies that divide us, right? They divide on so many sides, and how can we be a part of unifying? Well, I think the biggest thing is integrating all sides of ourselves. There is I look at, there's many beliefs and ancient beliefs about this also, but that we have 4 different spirits. Where this is how I'm splitting now away from duality, non-duality. It seems. Well, I'm telling you is inside us all, when we start to recognize our feminine spirit and our masculine spirit, and realize that we are both feminine and masculine, and we naturally, a lot of us are sit more, like myself, I sit more masculine, so I have to work harder to be feminine. Some people sit more feminine and need to work harder to be masculine. And I'm not saying anybody needs to be more masculine or somebody needs to be more feminine. I'm just saying, in a situational basis, we should be deciding what energy we should put out there. But we also have to be very cognitive of the fact that there's a shadow side to each aspect of ourselves. For like the light father or the light masculine would be the one that will protect his community right to his death, right? For when he knows he needs to, right? But he's also the judge. So like he's making judgments and on the situations. We have to be very cognitive of are we being cognitively dissonant and telling ourselves a different story so that we can make dark judgments? And that's the dark father. Like, or if I'm protecting all my gold and cutting people to pieces to not share, right? So like another idea is the masculine is the accountant. So the feminine's the distributor, and she wants to give all and love and unconditional compassionate with their giving. And then the masculine has to make the accounting of how much can we give before we given all of our source away and not survive the future, right? So the dark masculine is the one that tells themselves a story so they can hoard food or hoard the gold, right? So the dark masculine would be the one that's not allowing the feminine spirit to give to the point where it's darkness, right? And the dark masculine is the one that's or the light masculine is making the right judgments, right? And it's balanced with the feminine spirit, and that's why it stays up here, and they work together to decide. She's giving, and he's like, they understand why they together in your mind why you can only give so much, right? But then there's the feminine spirit, and it's the one that is giving and loving all the time, and but it has to be honest with itself. Is it giving and loving all the time because they're truly virtuous and compassionate, or is it because they want to be needed, right? And if you give so much love and compassion and empathy to each situation, it's the mother that runs over and over coddles the child to the point where the child can't take care of themselves when they're older, right? So that's where we have to be very honest with ourselves. Are we loving a person so that we get loved? Like, are we going around on Facebook to like a bunch of people and like and giving money to the poor person only when people are watching, you know what I mean, so that we can be more loved? Or are we doing it because we're actually truly compassionate, right? So these are the aspects that we need to be honest with ourselves before we can be a part of unifying the spirit, which is to me, it's that connection to God that allows us to get centered, and that's knowing when to be more here and when to be here, but it's always connected by the negotiation, or let's say the discerner, which is you in the center, right? You're sitting there listening to these spirits talk, in a sense, and you're deciding how to make this all work. And that's a connection to your third eye, which also connects you to God, right? So, and I believe God is the energy that makes us. If we're, for example, how do we? So when we're talking in a situation and negotiating between these spirits outside ourselves, then we have to speak our truth in the this is the logos. So right now I'm doing this. I'm speaking right from the moment, and I'm trying to speak as much as truthful as to myself and to anyone that's listening as possible. But I also need, if I'm trying to pull God's word and bring it to flesh with logic and reason and truth and humility, which is what you need to be logocentric in your speech, then I also need to realize that I'm not a perfect receptor for these messages. So if I'm saying something that's off, I need input from another person to join this conversation. And that's how we come to the center, right? And if our goal is to get to the center in our conversation, then we should never act defensive, because there's no necessity for an offense if the whole point is for us to end up here. But if we're over here and I'm like, no, this is the way, and you just stand behind it and you're not willing to negotiate, then you're not in logos. You're standing behind your ego's term. And I believe that the reason why politics is so divided and they just yell back and forth at each other is because if they really did speak from truth and from the logos, right, and that's making the word of God to flesh, then smart people in a circle recording what they're saying, so the rest of the world, us in Canada, can see, would come to that center together and make sense and stop all this nonsense, right? And that's where we find unity. But there's going to be people that are not happy with the decisions because they have been taught into their idea, this ideology in their head of some utopia or idea that they need to have happen. So if people don't want to destroy some of these ideological possessive tendencies towards the world, then they can't be with us in unity, right? How can they be if they're only going to push against it? And fair enough, it's good that we have people pushing. However, we need to realize is we don't have it all figured out. So, but only way that we can figure it out is the logos. Bring the words to the forefront. How do we even know who we are if we haven't even spoke our truth out to the world or wrote it down? Because in our minds, we just have ideas, right? And once you start to speak or start to write, then you're actually making them real. And then you start to realize who you are, right? And if you're able to do that and you're willing to do that in front of people, then you are willing to be told, hey, no, what you just said right there is pathological, right? And you got to be humble enough to take that. And if I'm saying anything that bothers any people, please comment below and we'll discuss and see where I'm off base. Anyways, non-duality. The path to non-duality is finding the dualistic nature of your heart, finding the other side of yourself. You know, in my case, I needed to find my feminine, you know, and that's finding the dualistic nature in yourself to find the non-duality. Much love, and God bless you all.